I wasn't looking for trouble that day, but it found me anyway. It started at the train station, the kind of place that feels abandoned even when there are people around. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile, flickering glow over the cracked tiles beneath my feet. The clock on the wall was slow, just a little, but enough to make me feel like I was already late, even though I wasn't. I had arrived early to catch the 11:15 p.m. train out of town. Not that I had anywhere important to go, just wanted to get away for a while. I was tired, and the city felt too crowded, too suffocating. The train station was supposed to offer a sense of escape. Instead, it was a strange, unnerving kind of quiet. At first, it was easy to ignore the odd man standing near the corner of the waiting area. He was just another face in the crowd, or at least, that's what I told myself. But there was something wrong about him. He was hunched over slightly, his thin frame draped in a faded coat that seemed too big for him, his face obscured by a frayed scarf wrapped tightly around his neck. I couldn't make out his features, but the way he stood, swaying gently, sent an involuntary shiver down my spine, like a piece of discarded furniture that hadn't been removed yet, a stain on the station that hadn't been cleaned. And the waiting room wasn't busy. A few tired travelers here and there, but no one paid much attention to the old man. And yet, my eyes kept darting back to him. Every time he seemed to be a little closer, a little too close. Not in a way that was immediately threatening, but in a way that made my skin prickle. I shook my head, blaming the dim lighting for making my thoughts spiral. I was just tired, just anxious about the train ride ahead. I looked at my watch. 11:05 p.m., 10 minutes to go. That's when I heard it. The sound of his shoes shuffling across the floor, slow and deliberate. I didn't turn to look, but the sound grew closer, closer, until it stopped just behind me. My heart skipped a beat, and I felt a cold prickle on the back of my neck. "Excuse me," the voice rasped. I turned around slowly, and there he was, right there. That old man. His eyes, pale and watery, locked onto mine, and for a moment I thought he might say something, but instead he just stood there, staring. A thin stream of saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth, but he didn't wipe it away. He smelled like old books and something else. Something foul, like wet wool that hadn't seen the sun in years. "I've been watching you," he said, after what felt like forever. His voice was cracked, like an old record spinning out of tune. "You're waiting for the train, yes?" I nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, just waiting." His head tilted slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "The train is not what you think it is," he whispered. I didn't know what he meant, but I couldn't move. Something in the air felt wrong, the silence pressing against me. His presence made it hard to breathe. Suddenly he reached out, a bony hand with long yellowing fingers, grasping the edge of my sleeve. I froze. "You'll be on that train," he croaked, "but it won't take you where you want to go. Not the way you think." I yanked my arm away, heart pounding, and stepped back. I couldn't speak, couldn't even process what was happening. My mind was screaming at me to leave, to get away from him, but before I could move, he stepped forward, blocking my path to the exit. "There's no way out now," he muttered, his face twisting into something almost pleased. "You've already chosen. You'll see." I wanted to shout, to call for help, but the words stuck in my throat. My eyes flicked to the door leading to the platform. The train was already pulling in, its engine roaring as it slid into the station, headlights cutting through the dark. It wasn't the train I was expecting. It was too old, too battered. The rust along its side looked like it had been there for decades, and the windows were cracked, dark shadows beyond them. But there was no turning back now. The old man smiled, showing yellowed teeth. "Go on," he urged, his voice low. It's waiting for you." I didn't know what else to do. I walked toward the train, my legs trembling beneath me, and I heard his voice, softer now, trailing behind me like a whisper in the wind. "It will never stop. It will never let you off." The train doors closed with an ominous clang, and as I stepped into the dimly lit car, I saw no one else on board. The air was thick, oppressive. I found my seat in the corner, the same way I had always chosen in every other train I'd taken. I glanced out the window, and for a moment I thought I saw the old man standing on the platform watching me. But then the train lurched forward and the station vanished behind me. I tried to breathe, tried to calm myself. The sound of the wheels on the track was almost soothing, but something in the air, something felt wrong. As the train moved faster, the lights flickered, and then I heard it. A voice, faint but unmistakable. "It's not where you think it's taking you." The old man's voice echoed in the dark. I turned my head, but the car was empty. I was alone. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that the train wasn't empty at all. That something was waiting for me in the dark corners of the car, something far worse than the old man. Something that wouldn't let me off. Not now, not ever.